I brought pumpkin pie to Thanksgiving, then my sister told everyone I begged her for money, while I'd been secretly paying off her $52,800 debt. You won't believe how I exposed her that night. I can still remember the smell of roasted turkey and sage hitting me before I even stepped inside. I was standing there, holding a homemade pumpkin pie, staring through the glass panels of my parents' front door. Inside, 20-something relatives laughed under that massive crystal chandelier my mom adores. For a split second, I thought about turning around. Maybe spending Thanksgiving alone in my apartment, eating microwaved pasta, watching reruns until I fell asleep. But before I could even move, Dad spotted me through the glass. There she is. Our number cruncher has arrived, he called out, all cheer and volume, like this was some grand event. The door swung open, and there he was, smiling big. I smiled back, the pie steadying my hands even though my stomach felt twisted. Mom appeared next, perfectly put together as always. Oh, you brought dessert, she said, taking the pie from me like it was a last-minute grocery pickup instead of something I'd spent hours baking. Is that all you brought? Just me and the pie, I said, forcing a small laugh. Made from scratch. Dad patted my shoulder proudly. Skyla works with numbers, you know. Stable job, always punctual, always reliable, always boring. I'd heard those words so many times they barely sounded like compliments anymore. Mom's phone chimed before I could say anything. Her face lit up. That's your sister? She's running late. Of course she was. I muttered, 30 minutes and counting, under my breath, but no one noticed. They were already ushering me inside toward the living room. Uncle Warren lifted his glass when he saw me. The accountant arrives. How's life balancing all those books? I'm actually an internal auditor, I corrected politely, taking the champagne flute a waiter offered. Oh, well, same thing, he chuckled. And then, suddenly, the room went silent. The kind of silence you feel before a storm hits. Heads turned toward the foyer. She had arrived. Marissa. She walked in 30 minutes late, wrapped in a Max Mara coat and carrying a Prada bag that probably cost more than my rent. Her hair perfect, her smile even more so. Sorry I'm late, she said, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic was brutal. Mom beamed, rushing to her side like a magnet. You look stunning, sweetheart. Is this new? Just picked it up last weekend, Marissa said, flicking her wrist so the handbag caught the light. The color called to me. You deserve to treat yourself, Mom cooed. I stood there, champagne burning down my throat, trying not to laugh at the irony. Marissa hadn't had a steady job in years. But sure, she deserved to treat herself. Dinner was called before I could get another drink. I ended up squeezed between Cousin Lauren and Uncle Warren's new girlfriend, who I was pretty sure had already forgotten my name. Across from me, Marissa dominated the table like she always did, talking about her new business venture, something about luxury brands and social media. No one asked questions. They just nodded, dazzled. Then Lauren leaned over, whispering, Hey, Skyla, I've been meaning to ask about my student loans. The interest is killing me. Any advice? For once, I felt useful. Actually, there's a new restructuring program, I said, leaning closer. If your income falls under a certain, not everyone wants to talk about math at dinner, dear, Mom cut in sharply from down the table. Then, with a smile toward Lauren, she said, Why don't you ask Marissa? She's great with money. The table fell quiet. I stared at my plate, fork hovering over untouched turkey. Marissa let out a soft laugh, swirling her wine. Oh, Skyla's always crunching numbers, she said sweetly. And always short on cash, it seems. My stomach dropped. I manage my money just fine, I said calmly, though my pulse was pounding in my ears. Do you? She replied, tilting her head. Then why are you always asking for loans? The room froze. Every face turned toward me. I blinked, my throat tight. I've never asked you for money, I said evenly. Not once. Please, she said, rolling her eyes. You should stop begging. It's embarrassing. Her words hit like a slap. No one said a word. Not Mom, not Dad, not a single person who knew the truth. Dad cleared his throat finally. Speaking of embarrassing, did anyone catch the Seahawks game last Sunday? And just like that, everyone moved on, leaving my humiliation behind like a stain no one wanted to clean up. I sat there, quiet, staring at my plate, and suddenly I was 10 again, emptying my piggy bank so Mom could buy Marissa a dance costume. Your sister needs it more than you, she'd said. You're the practical one, Skyla. Always the practical one. Always the responsible one. Always the one expected to sacrifice. I excused myself before dessert, slipping into the powder room and locking the door behind me. My hands were shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. I opened my banking app. 5 recurring payments, all with Marissa's name. Car insurance, credit cards, a personal loan, 5 years, $52,800. Without hesitation, I hit cancel on every single one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. When I came back to the table, Mom smiled like nothing had happened. There you are. We started without you. That's fine, I said quietly, sliding into my chair. I'm not really hungry for dessert anyway. My phone buzzed in my pocket, 5 confirmation messages. Payments cancelled. Dad held up the coffee pot. More coffee, Skyla. I smiled and held out my cup. Yes, I said, steady. I think I'll have a second helping. Because for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't paying for my sister's life tonight. For the first time in forever, I was choosing myself. And it felt like coming up for air after nearly drowning. Numbers don't lie. People do. The next morning, sunlight filters through the blinds of my tiny one-bedroom apartment. The air smells like coffee and cinnamon, familiar, grounding. I sit at my little desk wedged between the kitchen and the couch, open my laptop, and create a fresh spreadsheet. My fingers move automatically, calm and precise, the same rhythm that makes me good at my job. But this isn't work. This is excavation. Every keystroke feels like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd been giving away, month after month, year after year. I pull up my bank records. Line after line, I document it all, 3 separate credit card payments each month, the personal loan that was just until her commission comes through, the car insurance for that luxury SUV she needed, 4 client meetings that never happened. The total flashes at the bottom, $52,800. I stare at it, the number glowing against the screen. It doesn't look like generosity. It looks like gullibility. $900 a month, more than my own car payment, quietly funding her life so she could keep pretending hers was perfect. I saved the spreadsheet 3 times, 1 copy on my laptop, 1 in the cloud, 1 in a hidden folder. Evidence secured. I take a slow sip of coffee and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That's when my phone buzzes. Marissa. The 16th time since sunrise. I flip it over, ignoring it, but the notifications keep coming. Something's wrong with the payments. Call me now. Did you change banks? Payment failed. What did you do? The credit card company called. Fix this. Autopay declined. Call me back. Insufficient funds? What's happening? The messages shift from confusion to full-blown panic, exclamation marks multiplying like her desperation. By the time the 15th call comes through, I mute my phone and keep working. It's almost peaceful, until my screen lights up again, this time with my mother's name. I shouldn't answer, but I do. Skyla. Her voice is tight. What's going on? Marissa says you're refusing to help her with something. There it is, that tone. That same disappointed lilt she's used since I was a kid. The sound that says I've done something selfish. I've been paying her bills for 5 years, Mom, I say, my voice surprisingly steady. She told everyone at Thanksgiving that I begged her for money. So I stopped. A sharp breath crackles through the line. That's not what she meant. You know how Marissa gets when she's nervous. She exaggerates. It wasn't an exaggeration. It was a lie. I pause. And everyone believed her. You're being dramatic, she sighs. Family helps family. I did help. For 5 years. To the tune of $52,800. There's silence. Then, the faint rustle of the phone changing hands. Skyla, Dad says, his voice lower, older. What's this about money? Your sister says you've cut her off without warning. Did she tell you why she needed my money? I ask. She's been having cash flow problems with her business. You know that. I almost laugh. Dad, she doesn't have a business. She hasn't had steady work in 3 years. Another long silence. Then he says quietly, you've changed. You used to be kind. That one hits harder than I expected. But then I breathe, slow and deep, and realize something. I haven't changed. I tell him softly. I just stopped letting people use my kindness as their safety net. The silence that follows is heavy. Not angry, just stunned. Like they're realizing for the first time that the family dynamic doesn't orbit around Marissa anymore. The call ends awkwardly, with Dad mumbling something about talking later, which we both know really means, we hope you come to your senses. I set my phone down on the desk, but it barely stays still for a minute before ringing again. Hey, Skyla, Lauren says on the other end. Just checking in. You left Thanksgiving so suddenly. Everything okay? It was a difficult evening, I say carefully. Yeah. Marissa's been messaging everyone, she continues, lowering her voice. Something about you backing out of a loan? A dry laugh escapes me. I didn't back out of anything. I just stopped making her payments. After 5 years. There's a long pause. pause. Then disbelief. Wait, you've been paying her bills? But she has that house in Bellevue, right?
Yeah.
I say quietly. She does. For a moment, Lauren doesn't speak. When she finally does, her voice is soft. How much are we talking about? I glance at the spreadsheet on my screen. The number looks colder than ever. $52,800. Holy crap, Skyla, Lauren breathes. That's it. She pauses, unable to finish. No wonder you always turn down family trips. A lump forms in my throat. All those years of excuses, work deadlines, saving for a down payment, on call for quarter-end reports. When the truth was simpler, and so much sadder. I couldn't afford both Marissa's lifestyle and my own existence in the same story. After Lauren hangs up, promising a discretion I know won't last 24 hours, my phone buzzes again, a text from cousin Michael. About time someone stood up to the golden child. I stare at the message for a long moment. So it's spreading now. 5 years of quiet humiliation, finally rewriting itself across family group chats and whispered side conversations. The image of all those holidays plays back in my head, Marissa arriving late but radiant, draped in designer coats while I rotated the same black dress, swapping accessories to pretend it was new. Her setting down imported wines while I brought homemade desserts because ingredients were cheaper than labels. Her talking about luxury resorts while I quietly said, staycation. And every time, Mom beamed at her as if Marissa were the miracle child who'd made it. I closed the laptop gently. The documentation's done. The payments are gone. And the truth, the real truth, is finally out there. For the first time in 5 years, that $880 won't vanish from my account to prop up her fantasy. The thought doesn't bring triumph, just a strange, hollow kind of peace, like removing a splinter that's been buried so deep you learn to move around the pain. By the time I check my phone again, there are 43 unread messages. Tomorrow will bring more guilt, more calls, more manipulation. But tonight, the numbers are clear. And numbers, unlike sisters, don't lie. At 6:47 a.m., my phone lights up with the family group chat. I squint at the screen, still wrapped in my comforter, instantly regretting it. Please keep Skyla in your prayers during this difficult time. Mental health struggles can manifest in many ways, including financial jealousy and irrational behavior. Marissa. I stare at the ceiling, tracing the little bumps in the plaster to keep from throwing my phone. Within seconds, replies start rolling in.
Oh no.
What happened? Sending love, Skyla. We're here for you. Should we organize a care package? Not a single person asks why this message exists. Not one questions her version of events. Because Marissa's word has always been gospel. And just like that, I'm recast as the unstable one, the jealous, unhinged sister having a breakdown. Mom calls within minutes. Skyla Marie Thompson, she says, using the tone reserved for family scandals and moral failings. You need to fix this before Thanksgiving is completely ruined. I pad toward the kitchen, slipping my feet into slippers. Fix what, exactly? Don't play dumb, she snaps. Marissa is devastated. Your father can barely look at his phone when she texts about you. She pauses for effect. We raised you better than this. The coffee maker hums as I measure the grounds. Did you ask her what I actually did? She showed me the notifications, Mom replies, her voice lowering like she's relaying a crime. All those payments, suddenly cancelled. She has bills, Skyla. Responsibilities. Roofs to maintain. So do I. The words come out sharp, steadier than I expect. This isn't like you, she presses. The daughter I raised would never abandon her sister. I watch the dark stream of coffee fill the pot, quiet, consistent, unbothered. The daughter you raised, I say evenly, has been paying Marissa's bills for 5 years while she told everyone I begged her for money. Silence. Not disbelief, discomfort. The kind that comes when truth finally lands. I'm going to be late for work, I add, grabbing my mug. Give Dad my love. And before she can respond, I hang up. I open Facebook out of morbid curiosity, and there it is. A photo of Marissa, perfectly lit by morning light, gazing out a window with just the right amount of sadness. Heartbroken when family members struggle with jealousy. Praying for healing during this difficult time. 27 sympathetic comments and counting. I close the app without a word and finish my coffee. When I get to the office, something unexpected happens. I work better than I have in months. The spreadsheets flow. The numbers make sense. The noise is gone. My manager stops by during our afternoon check-in, eyebrows raised. You seem sharper lately, she says. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. I almost laugh. What I'm doing is keeping $880 a month and finally sleeping through the night. That evening, I buy myself a new desk, solid oak, the one I've had bookmarked for months. As I type in my card details, there's no guilt, no mental math about how this will affect her next payment. And that's when it hits me. I wasn't living below my means because I was frugal. I was living below my means because I was financing someone else's lie. The realization sits in my chest like something heavy but honest. 3 days later, that piece is tested. Because when I walk into my office building after lunch, I see her, Marissa. Through the glass doors, designer sunglasses perched on her head, hair perfectly tousled to look imperfect, outfit engineered for sympathy. She spots me immediately. "How could you abandon me like this?" she cries, voice echoing across the marble lobby. "After everything I've done for you?" Heads turn. My coworkers pretend not to look, but they're all looking. I keep my voice low, calm. "This isn't the place to discuss your financial issues, Marissa." "Financial issues?" She laughs, brittle and sharp. "You're the one who's always needed my help, and now that I need you, temporarily, you cut me off completely?" A security guard glances over, uncertain. "Call me when you're ready to talk about repayment plans," I say quietly. Her tears stop. Instantly. "Repayment," she repeats, the word hanging between us like a lit fuse. And just like that, the performance cracks. The shift would have been impressive if I hadn't seen it 100 times before. That seamless transformation from trembling victim to sharp calculation. The way her posture straightened the moment she realized tears weren't working. "This isn't over," she hissed. And with that, she spun on her heel, stiletto clicks echoing across the marble floor until the revolving doors swallowed her whole. I stood there for a long moment, waiting for the shaking that never came. Instead, calm settled in, steady, unshakable, like the quiet hum of fluorescent lights after a storm. Saturday came with something I hadn't expected. Support. Lauren showed up at my apartment carrying deli sandwiches, and that look, half concern, half admiration. "You okay?" she asked, setting containers of soup on my small dining table. I nodded. "Depends on what version of the story everyone's telling." She smirked. "The real one's finally circulating. Michael called me after talking to your dad. Is it true Marissa owes you over 50 grand? 52,800, I confirmed, matter-of-factly. But her total debt's closer to 96,000, from what I can piece together. Lauren's sandwich froze halfway to her mouth. 96? How is that even possible? They live in that Bellevue house. Mortgage maxed. 3 credit cards at their limit. 2 personal loans. A car lease 3 months behind. I shrugged. I covered the minimums for years. She was never stable, just good at pretending. Lauren exhaled sharply. She used you. All this time. Playing the part of the successful sister while you. My phone buzzed, cutting her off. A new notification. The younger cousins had made a new group chat. Team Skyla. Without Marissa. Without my parents. Lauren grinned. Took them long enough. Before I could respond, my phone rang again, an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. I hesitated, thumb hovering over decline, until Lauren's eyes went wide. "That's Evan's number," she whispered. "Marissa's husband." I answered and put it on speaker. "This is Skyla." "Skyla?" Evan's voice sounded drained. "We need to talk." "I'm listening." "I had no idea," he said quickly. "She hid it all, the payments, the debt, everything. I thought we were fine. I thought we were stable. But she's been juggling cards and loans just to look like she's keeping up." There was no defensiveness, no denial, just exhaustion. "Thank you," he continued quietly, "for helping her all this time. I didn't know you were carrying that weight." I exchanged a glance with Lauren, her mouth slightly open in disbelief. Evan sighed. "We're not as well off as people think. Not even close." A strange lightness spread through me. For the first time in years, someone else could see through the illusion. The golden daughter's shine was cracking, and I wasn't the only one watching it happen. "I hope," I said carefully, "you help her find a better way to cope." "Me too," he murmured before ending the call. Lauren reached across the table, squeezing my hand. For the first time, I wasn't the only one who understood who Marissa really was. And for once, I wasn't the one expected to fix it. That night, at 11:42 p.m., the pounding started. 3 hard knocks, so forceful the hinges rattled. I didn't need to look. I already knew. Marissa stood under the harsh hallway light, arms wrapped around herself. No designer coat, no perfect curls, no mascara, just faded jeans, a wrinkled t-shirt, and a face streaked with salt and desperation. I cracked the door, but kept my hand on the frame. "It's nearly midnight. Please," she whispered. "I'm falling apart, Sky. Evan knows everything." For a heartbeat, I saw the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, trembling until I whispered that thunder was only clouds clapping. But then her voice from Thanksgiving replayed in my head, sharp, public, humiliating. "You should stop begging for money. It's embarrassing." I stepped aside. "Come in." She brushed past me, pacing my small living room like a trapped animal. "The credit card companies won't stop calling," she said, voice shaking. "I've blocked 8 numbers already, but they keep finding new ones. And the BMW, she choked, they're repossessing it next week. I poured her a glass of water. She glanced at it, disappointed it wasn't wine, but took it anyway. Mom and Dad are heartbroken, she continued, ignoring the water. You're tearing this family apart with this vendetta. I stayed seated, calm. Vendetta? If I lose everything, it's on you, she snapped, the fragility in her voice vanishing. Is that what you want? To see me fail? I waited. I'd learned by now that silence unnerves her more than argument. When she finally stopped pacing, I spoke. I helped you for 5 years, Marissa. She sniffled, her tone instantly softening. I know, and I'm so grateful. That's why I don't understand why you'd stop, now, when I need you the most. I let a long pause stretch between us. Then, evenly, I said, that's $52,800. I have records of every payment. Her expression twisted, pleading morphing into outrage. It wasn't that much. You're exaggerating to make me look bad. Without a word, I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. Rows and rows of transactions glowed under the lamplight. Dates, amounts, accounts, notes. 5 years of quiet hemorrhaging, documented down to the penny. This is insane, she stammered. You're doing this to look like the perfect one. You always have to be the responsible one. I said nothing. When silence didn't work in her favor, she pivoted again. You know I have expenses you don't. The country club fees alone. She stopped mid-sentence, realizing the absurdity. You make so much more than me, she tried instead, voice rising. You don't understand what it's like to struggle. I make $185,000 a year, I said quietly. Her mouth fell open. That wasn't the number she'd imagined. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, I continued, so I could afford to pay your bills. The look on her face was the first honest expression I'd seen in years, pure disbelief. The silence between us feels like the first honest moment we've had in years. Marissa's mouth opens, then closes, searching for another angle, another hook. But, we're sisters, she finally says, voice shrinking. Family helps family. I walked to the door, my hand steady on the knob. You had 5 years, Marissa. I paid $52,000 of your debt. That's enough. Her chin lifts, defiance flickering through desperation. She grabs her purse, shoulders squared. At the threshold, she turns, eyes sharp with venom. You're heartless, she spits. You'll regret this. I meet her gaze. Calm, unflinching. No, I say quietly. You should regret confusing someone's compassion with obligation. The door clicks shut behind her, soft, final. For the first time in years, my apartment is silent, and the silence feels clean. 2 hours later, my mother calls. Her tone trembles with the strain of civility. Marissa says you're refusing to help her, she begins. She's going through so much right now. Did she tell you how much I've already helped? I ask. She mentioned some small loans. $52,000, Mom. Over 5 years. That's not small. There's a sharp inhale on the other end, a sound that says more than any words could. Then my father's voice replaces hers. Rough. Disbelieving. 52,000? That can't be right. I can email you the records, I say, my cursor hovering over the email draft I prepared days ago. He hesitates. Why would you keep sending her money all that time if she wasn't being honest? I finish for him. Because she's family. And you taught me that family helps family, no matter what. The silence that follows feels like vindication and heartbreak colliding in the same breath. That night, my phone lights up with messages. Uncle Warren, your sister is devastated. Where's your compassion? Aunt Patricia, the family forgives. Period. This cold shoulder is beneath you. But then, Cousin Michael, about damn time someone stood up to her. Lauren, just heard the truth. We're behind you. Even Mom and Dad see it now. And finally, a new notification. Family group chat. I brace for the usual guilt, but instead, a message from Evan. Thank you all for your concern. Marissa and I are working through some financial difficulties that have come to light. We ask for your understanding. And Skyla, thank you for your past support. It wasn't acknowledged properly. For the first time, the family dynamic tilts. The golden daughter no longer orbits at the center. The practical one no longer quietly revolves around her. Thanksgiving has become the fracture line. Before the truth. And after. Later that night, Dad calls again. His voice is low, careful. I've been looking at those statements, he says. All these years, you were. He can't finish the sentence. The reality of it weighs too heavy. We should talk, he says finally. All of us. Maybe Sunday dinner? Not yet, I answer, surprising even myself. I need some time. A pause. Then, softly, of course. Whatever you need. The words sound foreign coming from him, from anyone, really. Whatever I need has never been part of the family family vocabulary. That night, I curl up on the couch beneath Grandma's quilt, the one Marissa always said looked too old-fashioned. My apartment doesn't feel bigger, just more mine. The spreadsheet still glows on my laptop screen. 5 years of payments, 5 years of proof, each row a boundary I finally learned to draw. I close it. The room dims into quiet. For the first time, peace doesn't feel like loneliness. It feels like recovery. A week later, my phone buzzes with a new text from Evan. Family meeting. Our house. Tomorrow at 2. Just parents, you, and a few others. This needs to end. The words sit heavy in my chest. Since that night in my apartment, the family's divided into camps. Mom calls daily, crying. Dad stays quiet. Cousins pick sides. But Evan's taking charge. The man who never interfered is suddenly the one pulling everyone together. When I arrive, their house looks smaller than I remember. Lived in. Real. Evan opens the door before I knock. His usual warmth replaced by quiet resolve. Thank you for coming, he says. This won't be easy. Inside, the living room feels like a courtroom. Mom and Dad on matching armchairs. Uncle Warren and Aunt Patricia on the sofa. Even Grandma, her presence a verdict in itself. Marissa's chair sits empty at the center, waiting. Where's I begin? She'll join us, Evan says, motioning for me to sit. Please. I choose the far corner of the sofa, the one closest to the exit, furthest from the drama. The air hums with tension. Mom tries for a fragile smile. This is unnecessary. Family matters should stay private. Not this one, Evan says, setting a thick manila folder on the coffee table. His voice doesn't waver. Not anymore. A door closes down the hall. Marissa appears. No makeup, no designer labels, just jeans, a beige sweater, and tired eyes. Sit down, Evan says. She obeys, perching on the edge of the chair. He opens the folder. Over the past few years, Marissa has accumulated $96,500 in personal debt, he begins. A gasp from Mom. Dad straightens. That includes the $52,800 Skyla paid, quietly, for 5 of those years, Evan continues. The same money Marissa claimed came from a trust fund. Grandma's sharp intake of breath slices through the air. I never set up any trust fund, she says coldly. I know, Evan replies. Now I do too. He lays out the statements, rows of purchases. Nordstrom, Saks, Neiman Marcus, designer everything. Father's disbelief cracks into sorrow. This doesn't sound like the daughter we raised. I needed those things, Marissa whispers. Everyone expected me to be successful. Mom's voice quivers. Sweetheart, is this true? It's the first time in 30 years I've heard her question Marissa. Marissa's composure breaks. I just wanted everyone to be proud of me, she sobs. Aunt Patricia's voice cuts clean. By lying? By stealing from your sister? I was going to pay her back. When? Evan's tone is sharp now. With what? You haven't had a job in 3 years. The silence that follows is suffocating. And somehow freeing. Evan clears his throat. Things change today. The Range Rover's for sale. Maldives trip cancelled. Marissa starts working full-time next week. Financial counseling every Thursday. Mom pales. That's extreme. It's necessary, he says. And long overdue. Dad looks at me, his eyes clouded with something I've never seen before. Regret. We should have seen it sooner, he murmurs. I'm sorry, Skyla. I nod. The apology lands gently, not triumphant, not bitter. Just real. For once, I sit in a family crisis without being expected to fix it. Not the savior. Not the scapegoat. Just Skyla. Present. Free. 6 months later, life has settled into quiet symmetry. Marissa works retail. Evan manages the finances. Mom calls with hesitance now. Dad listens more than he speaks. Then one morning, my phone pings. A deposit, $600. Followed by a text. It'll take years, but I'll pay you back. I stare at the message, remembering that Thanksgiving table. Her public humiliation. My quiet defiance. The powder room where I finally chose myself. My reply is simple. Received. Thank you. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but maybe an opening. A year later, I stand at a different doorway. Evan and Marissa's new home, a modest Tudor on a quiet street. Through the glass panels, I glimpse warm light, laughter, simplicity. For a heartbeat, I think about turning back. But then I see my father through the window. Our eyes meet, and I realize the story's not about debt or money anymore. It's about worth. My apartment, once small and shadowed, now holds pieces of that worth. A burgundy sectional that fits my friends and my laughter. A solid oak desk where I manage my finances, not anyone else's. A life built not from sacrifice, but from choice. The spreadsheet that once documented loss now sits closed, replaced by a new one titled simply, Future. And for the first time in years, I know exactly what that means. The $880 that once vanished every month into my sister's bottomless needs now has a new destination. An investment account quietly growing at 12%. Every deposit, every uptick in that graph, feels like proof that I reclaimed something I never should have had to lose. When Dad opens the door, his voice carries none of its old bluster. There she is, he says, softer now, not booming with pride or performance, but with something that sounds like respect. Happy Thanksgiving. I step inside. The smell of roasted turkey and herbs fills the air. My dress, simple, forest green, knee-length, feels perfectly right this year. No more shrinking in sequined rooms, pretending to belong. Oh, you're right on time, Mom says, kissing my cheek. It's warm, real, not the perfunctory brush from years past. Marissa's just about to serve. The dining room looks smaller this year, but in a comforting way. White plates, cloth napkins, 8 seats instead of 24. No crystal chandelier above, just a single pendant light, illuminating familiar faces without judgment. Marissa steps out from the kitchen, jeans, and a cream sweater, replacing her usual designer armor. Her hair pulled back, no jewelry catching the light. She carries the turkey platter with steady hands. Everything looks wonderful, I say, and for the first time in years, I mean it. She meets my eyes, her smile shy but genuine. Thanks for coming. Evan raises his glass once everyone's seated, then nods for Marissa to speak. She stands, water glass trembling just slightly. To family, she says quietly. The kind who tells us the truth, even when it hurts. The words hang in the air like a benediction. I lift my glass in return. Not ready for complete forgiveness, but ready for honesty. Ready for peace. Dinner unfolds without the polished performance of years past. Uncle Warren talks about his heart surgery, unfiltered and honest. Lauren shares her promotion, proud and open. Even my parents admit their fears about retirement, their voices softer, their pride finally human. No one performs. No one competes. We simply exist, together, stripped of illusion. Later, back in my apartment, the city hums outside my window. I open my laptop, a reflex, though I don't really need to anymore. 12 deposits from Marissa, each one punctual, steady. Proof not of perfection, but of progress. I scroll through my messages, deleting the old ones. The pleading texts, the guilt trips, the threats wrapped in fake concern. They're relics now. The truth doesn't need armor anymore. I open my journal. The page is blank, waiting. $52,800. If she were a stranger, I would have stopped long before that. But she wasn't. She was my sister. Or at least, I thought she was. I pause, letting the ink dry as my thoughts catch up. Those repayments each month aren't just financial. They're acknowledgments that my boundaries matter. That my kindness was real. That my worth doesn't depend on family approval. It took me 30 years to learn this simple truth. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're self-respect. I close the journal. No triumph. No regret. Just clarity, clean, quiet clarity. Because sometimes, kindness means knowing when to stop. You can't save someone who keeps sinking, especially when they're the one pulling you under. And as I sit there, the evening light spilling through the blinds, a question lingers in the stillness. Not for them, but for you. If it were your family, if it were your sister, what would you have done? Would you cut them off? Give one more chance because they're blood? Or take legal action to reclaim what was lost? Where do you draw the line between helping and being used?